Hello and welcome to my next Clockwork Empires patch update. It's a version 34 and it is the December release of 2014. I realized this is in January, but for the past month I've actually been very busy with home and work, and so I haven't really been able to deviate away from this because this was actually only a small update and I didn't think I would have time to sort this out and play a game. So I'll be doing this patch release now. The next patch should be coming out in the next few days. They generally release it around the 18th, which is kind of like now. So I thought I might as well get this out now as soon as I can. And then we can go into version 35. There is already a 34A and a 34B, so 35 shouldn't be too much longer. But this one is the Ghastly Tale of Amon Chalkbracket's Eldritch Transformation. Always a mouthful. Always pretty cool drawings though. The main aspect of this one is the laboratory, and that you have a naturalist who can go out and find things, find items, and potentially good items, amazing, wonderful, but also potentially find ones that are cultist or fish people orientated. And so they do transform into fish people and run away and get mob rule coming after them. But when they jump into the water, according to the trailer, jump into the water, they become nice and happy. Although they're still kind of part person, so it's a bit of an issue because I don't think they really actually get on with the fish people. But still, the actual patch notes quite small this time. Well, there's actually still a fair amount of them, but it's small for a patch. So the big features: naturalists will now explore, study nature, and find weird artifacts. They will indeed. Added laboratories and scientists to study weird artifacts and do science. So naturalists will go and find. They'll study the nature itself and they'll find things. They'll bring them back. And if you have a laboratory, which is a new building, scientists will actually study those weird artifacts and they will do the science. And I think it's actually the scientists who will change into these weird fish people. Buildings and modules can be dismantled. It does say that individually they can be. Now, I've had a quick playthrough beforehand, and buildings definitely. If you have a building, you can just sort of double click on it, and it gives you the information as to who you want to, which work crew you want to actually be playing with it, working with it. And in the top right, there's actually a dismantle or demolish building button. You click on it, and someone comes along, and they do demolish the building. Although they do not seem to actually give you any resources back for doing so. So it really is a case of, do you want it to be destroyed? Yes, okay, you've lost everything, which is bad, but I think it's really just a very first iterative process. I think maybe in the next patch or the one after that, they will probably expand upon that. It was just a first run through. The modules, it says you can. I tried it on a few items, nothing. I seem to be able to double click on the modules. It said what the module was, that was that. I'm assuming that it probably does work on some items, but I couldn't seem to get it to work myself. Again, this is the first time it's come out, so that's still a work in progress. The idea behind it is that you can move things around and design it. So design it how you want. So say if you've put loads of houses together and you actually think, actually I want to spread them out a bit for next time, you can from now on. And a really good thing is if you mistakenly put stuff down, for instance a farm, which I've done many times, done the wrong size because it didn't work very well, to clicking and dragging, you can actually demolish it properly. Favours: use your prestige in the Empire to call in supplies, skilled workers, or if you have no prestige, extra criminals. Hooray for extra criminals. In the bottom right, you normally get the little button that says all different types of things that happen. One of which is now the epic Great British, not really Great British, but Great British flag comes up. Click on that, and it allows you to choose multiple different options, which actually have an image of here. Call in favours. Here they are. So you have different types. You can call in NCOs, army people. You can call in a skilled artisan, random people. And Steam Knight armor, which I never actually got to 5 prestige recently to be able to do that. Awesome support building materials. Now they say the ideology behind that is that prestige wasn't being used yet, and this probably isn't going to be just all they use it for. However, they want it to kind of be a bit of a balancing act. So if you do come to an issue, which I have done quite a few times myself, where you have say tons and tons of random normal standard lower class citizens but not enough artisans, you can't really carry on because you've got 5 people in each group, and then you try and do some other jobs, but you can't because they do that one job. Or you have 5 artisans and only 2 or 3 people, or then you can't actually really get anything going again because the artisans are sitting there but with no workers underneath them. So the aim of this is just try to balance out anything where basically RNG has screwed you over a little bit. So this is just to help you out with that. Which I think is actually quite a good idea. So they've fixed a few issues. Operating system XLUA errors. This did come in the last patch, version 33, so just fixing up some errors there. heap corruption, pathfinding stall, pathfinding issues with buildings with no doors, and crash after loading the game. And you have somebody turning into a skeleton if they didn't have hair previously. So if you actually have someone who's bald, and then you try to load the game back in again, it would crash, and someone would turn into a skeleton. Lovely. Nice little bug there. The nature world changes. They've extended the game day-night cycle from 6 to 8 minutes, and the ratio is now 3 to 1 rather than 5 to 1. Now what that means is that previously you'd have 5 minutes of daytime to 1 minute and 1 minute of nighttime. You now have 6 minutes of daytime and 2 minutes of nighttime, and after playing through it does feel much better paced for me. The amount of time it took to travel, people would start going to sleep in the evenings. By the time they got back to their beds, it was already starting to become daytime again, so when they woke up it was halfway through the day. They then wouldn't be able to do the farming because they have to go back to sleep, that sort of thing. Everything became out of whack basically. The 3 to 1 with 8 minutes compared to 5 to 1 for 6 it seems to be much better paced. They've also made the night time slightly lighter. It's still definitely night time. You can definitely tell it's night, but it is lighter, which is good. Flax plants is valid crop to both biomes. Now when you try and actually in farming, you actually have flax plants as an option. They are used to create cloth fibre, cloth fibre, which is for something else a bit further down, but they are useful. So you can't actually eat them, but you can use them. New hematite node texture, which I've got a picture for that as well. Look at me, doing really well here. That's the old picture. Beautiful looking thing. It now looks like that, which is much nicer, much more unique as well. These aren't my pictures, these are from their Gamepedia. This is just random pictures on the internet. Remove the horrible grass lump from a lower dimension, and naturalists may discover that random rocks are actually an ore node, which is quite good. I think basically means that if you do just see a rock, it is actually a rock as far as you can tell. But if you have naturalists going out and exploring the world, which is much better now, you'd rather they go out and do it as opposed to your army, because even though you want your army to go out in case they find any bad people, you wanted your army to stick close to troops to your village, and it's not really an army person's job, really, is it, to go out and just explore in that sense. So you're going to send the naturalists out, they're going to go out and they're going to explore and they're going to find new things. And I think it's basically a chance if there is some ore there, just random rocks, if they look at it and they investigate it, there's a chance it will turn into an ore node, effectively. Animals will now eat crops and applicable food items. That I actually think is really good, and I did wonder about that previously, why they didn't. They would walk through, there's a beautiful crop of food for them to eat, and they just walk through it, and they go out the other side. You think, well, really? Because no, in real life, they would just start eating that. So it's pretty good. I guess it gives you a reason to try and actually, maybe just shoot one, run after them, shoot one, the rest of them run away, just to maybe keep them away, more interaction there. Animal hunger tracking overhauled. There's been no mention actually as to what it is, as far as I can see in any sort of dev diaries. Colonists will shoo bad animals away from crops. Oh, there we go. So colonists will actually do it themselves. You don't have to shoot them, but they'll actually just shoo them themselves. Ground fowl will create nests. Good. Animals flee from danger more effectively, and there's an eating animation for the foxes they implemented in the last version Day 3 update. Characters. Fixed. Listening to sermon caused colonists' bodies to explode. That was a thing. There was a chance that if someone was listening to a sermon, they would just blow up. Quite sure why, but it was there. That's gone. Made lots more jobs uninterruptible for gossiping. So what it means is that if you are doing farming, or if you are listening to a sermon or whatever, that aren't necessarily those ones, but a lot of the things like that now means that you cannot stop them halfway through to start gossiping, because they do kind of want to, if you're starting a job, you want to kind of get it to the end. Some of them will still be interruptible, but a lot less. And they say in here that they may actually pull back on it. So I think they've actually gone over the top. They've probably put a lot in to stop it from happening, whereas now they may come back and actually put a few more back in that will allow gossiping to interrupt the task. Fixed up return to civilization job. Basically just means that they will more likely come back to civilization rather than just wandering off to random areas. Converted food to roughly require 1 unit per day per colonist rather than the baseless nutritional value system. And they've changed the description of food to reflect this. So before, they may have required, say, 50 units per day, and bread had 27 units, for instance. They've taken that away now and made it so it's just 1 unit per day, and so food is going to be a percentage of that or an amount. And to be fair, by the amount of food they eat, it looks like a piece of cabbage might be, say, 1 unit, because they don't seem to need to eat that much food, which is good. Balance, whether it is night or not, now affects a lot of characters' jobs and behaviours. Good, which means that people will try and sleep more during the night, they'll try and work more during the day, they'll try and eat, I guess, more near dawn and dusk. So it just makes it a bit more natural as well. Further overhauling of sleeping, hunger, and related activities rebalanced. Again, no mention of that, so I can't really expand upon it. Job made to dump undesirable corpses outside of civilization area. So effectively, as it says, if you have, say, a fish person dying in your town, or a bandit, they'll try and pick them up and actually move them away first before getting rid of them. Session Boolean values is night. We're not being weighted correctly with negative weights. So basically now, if it's a night time, it is basically linked back into this one up here. If it's night time, they'll change the behaviour. Chapel's vicars work again. Didn't realise they weren't. Colonists will forage for food if starving. Hooray! Oh, it's so annoying that you have, especially when you set it up yourself, if you have a character who is starving, he can't find any food. A, you actually have some food sitting there, he just ignores it. But B, now if there's actually a chance for them to forage, they will actually go and do it themselves, which you would. If you are starving hungry, you'll go off and just look at there's a bush over there with some berries on it, go and grab some. They'll go and do that now. And foraging is its own job category. Military in combat. Fixed wheeled firearm requirements wasn't fulfilling, so it messed up everything from that point onwards. They're more like the way they should wield the firearm when needed. Gunfire explosions in combat will now wake people up. Excellent, because you'd expect that if you have a mine in the ground, or if you have sort of running around shooting a fish person, you would think the gunfire would probably wake you up, you know. Bin men wake us up, so you'd think a gunfire would probably do the same. And sleeping interrupted will now create a negative memory, which I think is a good counter to that. It will wake people up, but also it will make them feel negative, it will make them be annoyed. Military training now gives a bonus to all damage dealt. Excellent. Hunters will now target the closest animal and shouldn't switch targets randomly anymore. Good. It means that they won't just do a couple of shots, see another one that comes nearby, shoot that one, do another one, shoot that one. No, they'll actually shoot and kill. They'll shoot to kill. They'll try and actually finish off someone first, which is what a hunter does do. Added a melee version of Frontier Justice mob for military. They're the ones that go and chase after the people you've said, go kill them. I think they're actually cultists, go kill them. Added a faster item drop triggered when the enemy is nearby, so they're more like they'll actually drop their items a lot faster when there is actually a fish person nearby to, I guess, either pick up another item or run away. Fleeing and fighting requires no item in hand. Fix people running away forever to the edge of the map. It's still an issue. It's been an issue for like two or three patches now. Which means people will stop running forever. They'll actually try and run back towards civilization. That's what the big thing was in the last patch. Bullet system converted to military supply system. Now, I'm not going to go through this. They did actually do a weblog explaining about military and the situation. They basically didn't want it to be micromanaged. They didn't want it to be all tactic based. They want it to be based on how well you're doing, that you're playing the game. So do you have them set up correctly? If so, they should win. Before, it was a case of, briefly, what they're saying here is that it was a case of if you have your NCO and your team beneath that, and then you had guns, and then you also had bullets, then you would just be able to defend against the fish people. Without bullets, you would probably start to die. And ammunition was actually something they put in recently. And they didn't want that to be the case. They want it to be more that if you have your people all set up properly, then that should be enough. And if you have ammunition on top of that, you should then be doing very, very well. And what they've done is they've changed ammunition into something just more overly called supplies. And so now you actually just give supplies, and if you do, that's basically an optional buff to them. So what you have now is your officer, your NCOs, your troops. If you have that full chain done, you will be absolutely fine and actually going above. I think if you have just these two, that's kind of where you should be at. If you have just troops, you're more likely to be losing against fish people. If you have just NCOs, you'll lose against fish people. But if you have the both together, you should do fine. If you have an officer, you'll do extra well. And if you have equipment, aka supplies, you'll be doing exceedingly well. But I think that's actually just a temporary buff, really. So it would be good to actually not give them supplies until you really need it. Soldiers will do more damage if their NCO has an appropriate trait, and soldiers will do more damage if they have the appropriate traits. Eldritch stuff. Fixed. Fish people can be butchered through left click orders. I thought they could already, so maybe that was actually taken away for a bit. That was actually bugged, so you couldn't do that. Resize fishy idol. It was too big. A successful cultist murder will increase cultist power, which I think is very good. You know, if the cultists want to go and kill someone and they actually manage to pull it off, then they should become more powerful. Added some random hidden artifacts to the map, which I think your naturalists will actually go out and find. They don't want to, but they will. Colonists will occasionally turn into fish people and run into the sea. That comes into the whole. Naturalist finds an artifact, bring it back. Scientist goes and investigates it. They then turn into a fish person. Buildings, workshops, jobs, and zones. Fixed make planks, job offer, order script error. That's just a script error. Added bolts of cloth to starting loadouts, so beds now actually require cloth, which is good because beds you just basically built loads and loads and loads of beds. It costs just wood. Well, there's actually a lot of cloth in there. So I guess it does now determine. I think higher class beds actually do require more cloth because they are more sumptuous. So it does mean you may actually want to build some lower class beds and actually have maybe not enough beds for everyone because you don't have enough cloth. And also now it means that one of your farms needs to have the flax plant. You then have to build a textile plant to convert that into cloth to build more beds, etc. It makes it, I think it's better that way. Burial job balance slightly to be less appealing. So actually burying someone is actually less appealing than it was currently or previously, especially if the corpse is far away. Won't be done by military. So it means that if someone has died in the military order, NCO or otherwise, they then go off and try and bury them. They don't have enough time to actually upgrade themselves to become an NCO, so now it's not done by military anymore, it's done by people, so military will not have any issues in that sense. I think again because of the previous military side of things, they want to keep everything, all of that separate, so the military can sort themselves out and it would all be done properly. Added a confession job, vicar to take confessions from sad people, which will in fact, basically they're sad, they've got something to confess, they go to a vicar, they do that, they then become happier again. Which is one thing I don't like about Catholicism, but again I'll keep that separate from this. But yeah, you can go and just confess your sins and apparently everything's fine after that. Okay. Textile workshop and jobs are now in there, talked about them before. Spinning a mule is part of textiles. New hematite commodity module texture we've seen. Cancelling a building now removes the building footprint. Good. Fixed ghostly images of church models do not show up at the correct height in the module creator. New zone control panel stuff. Farm current controls upgraded. Only tinily. Instead of actually, when you click on the actual farm, you just have a little mini wheel and you choose which type of commodity you want to create or farm. You now don't. You click on it and it opens up a normal building window and you have the 4 or 5 options there, and at the very bottom you also have an option saying cancel farming or stop farming, so you can actually have people stop creating. Because if you have too many farms, you have too many people using the farms, some of them go bad and also they can't then do other things. If you have now, say, tons and tons of food you don't need to farm for this season maybe, or this couple of days, you could cancel a couple of your farms, which makes it everything a bit more efficient, which is good to see. Naturalism jobs. Naturalists will study nature. Exploration beacons more responsive. There's now a laboratory beacon. And macroscope is a new module. Work can be assigned to laboratory. Added scientist. Added laboratory assistant. Paintings now have descriptions based on the memories and important life events of the painter. I haven't seen that. So I don't really add paintings myself, I sort of just leave them because they're just extra wood for no reason. But it seems like the person who actually puts them up and the person who paints them will actually have some descriptions about them. That's a really nice little feature. Modules can now be dismantled. Again, I've not actually managed to successfully do that myself in the time I've quickly played it since. Buildings definitely can, yes. And for events, bandits, reduced chance to spawn armoured bandits, 50% rather than 100%. Good. Means they are, just less armoured ones, they were spawning quite a lot. Bandits will now prioritise better commodities, which does make sense. They won't go in there and just pick up your crops, they'll go in there and actually try and take hard liquor, for instance, which makes more sense. Bandits won't attack on day 1, can only attack with minimum numbers on day 2, increase bandit timer. And for balance, bandits will given less desire to shoot fleeing targets, more desire to shoot military targets. It's more balanced, but I don't think that's right. I guess they would want to shoot the military ones because they're the ones that are shooting them, aren't they? But still, shoot a couple of civilians if you're a bandit, why not? Added airdrop crates and animation. Supply drops now use crates, so when you actually ask for things to drop, you won't just have the items drop on the floor nearby your supply cache. They'll actually drop as a crate, and you have to go over to the crate and actually unpack it and pick up the items from there. Random immigration now tells you the job class of immigrants received. That's just helpful. No real change, which is helpful now. And added favours, get them from the Empire. Added favours, get them from Empire depending on your prestige. That's what I showed you previously. UI and UX correctly hooked up pumpkin pie icon. It's not the crazy faced man anymore. Flax straw now is an icon. Added a bunch of icons for building and modules. Reduced character memories display to 8 from 10. Because yes, it did actually go past the window, so now it just fits the window nicely. Colonist button rolled into population counter widget. So if you actually have the population counter when you click on it, it now I don't know what, I literally just clicked my mouse there, not you can actually see me clicking my mouse. Brilliant. But it does actually bring up everything about the colonist window now, which is very nice. Fixed work crew menu dramatically slows the game down. Okay, and dust particles are thickened, so anything that creates dust is now more dusty, I guess. So overall, I think it's a small patch, but I think it's putting in small base layers for future patches. It's more gamey stuff, more base stuff as opposed to game stuff. I think it's a good little patch. The next patch should be out very, very shortly, next few days. My plan is to make a video of that patch and then actually play the game, and hopefully, which we'll see in another video, try and put out one gameplay video every Sunday evening. Probably put up a regular slot, so hopefully that'll be like 4 or 5 gameplay videos per patch, which I think is probably enough. The previous one I was doing actually did get corrupted. As I saved it, I alt-tabbed out, and that seems to crash the game. And then it's corrupted every time I tried to load it, it would crash the game. So, still working on that, I believe. But yeah, hopefully see you again in version 35, where I'll be doing some gameplay videos, and I hope to see you there. Bye-bye.